And we are live. There we go. Let's see if anyone actually joins. It's been, I don't know, a month or two since I've gone live. Maybe a couple of months. Let's see. Let's share with a couple of people here. Okay, there we go. Let me share the live. It's not as spicy as usual, but that's okay. I'm not living as spicy of a life. What's up, dude? Hello, Bustin. What's up, my friend? Just a spontaneous live. Good to see you, man. I've missed you. Can you hear me okay? No consequences for any action. Hey, what's up, Jess? Have I read anything good lately? A couple of good questions already. Yes. So I've read this will be hit or miss for some people. But the Heart Sutra by Osho was actually really good. What's up, Stevie? Yeah, the Heart Sutra is a really good one. Really good. I've been reading a lot on the Heart Sutra, actually. What's up? Lost in the Sauce. The Other Shore by Thich Nhat Hanh is on the Heart Sutra as well. Really good stuff. Wild Wild Country. It's a good one. I like that documentary. I'm a documentary fan. I like to watch documentaries. And Wild Wild Country is pretty good. I like it. What's up, Sarah? You know, it's a very philosophical question whether I own a pocket knife or not. My brain trying to read when letters are backwards. Right. I know. So the camera's obviously mirrored. I haven't been live in a couple of months. It's been a couple of months at least. And I haven't really been on TikTok much, but you know, from the looks of it, TikTok might be going out the window. We might not have it. What's your YouTube? My YouTube? Are you on the live asking me this? Your old channel. Oh, I'm going to have to tell you later. Rick Questions Things is my current YouTube, and I'm streaming on YouTube right now as well. So when Stevie, thank you. I've missed you guys. I really have. I've missed you a lot. I've been really busy and just living, just being, existing as existence. I get a lot of good news info from TikTok. Yeah, I know. It looks like well, we don't know what's going to happen to TikTok. The more people I meet, the more I realize why Noah only allowed animals. Yeah, that's a good comment. So, how's TikTok been? Are the parrots still flying in and flocking and rampant? I haven't been on in forever. So I'm streaming on YouTube. If TikTok does go away, they have been busting. I really haven't been on TikTok at all. Somebody has sent me a TikTok every once in a while through text, and I'll see it. But it's been real. I've just been out of the TikTok world. But if TikTok goes away, yes, you got trolls, right? When TikTok goes away, if TikTok goes away, go to RickQuestionsThings.com. Keep in touch with me. And also Rick Questions Things on YouTube. when you say you are God, that's the philosophy of Satanism. Well, Satan doesn't exist. Praise to the Father who gave us his Son. Praise to the Spirit that lives in us. That what Jesus does. Well, it doesn't make much sense, but that's all belief and it isn't reality. So what would society look like if everyone had non-dual realization? Now that question, good question. If everyone had non-dual realization, and it's the realization that is key there, because you can intellectually understand non-duality. You can intellectually understand that you are one with, not just one with existence, but existence itself. You can intellectually understand that separation is an illusion and that you are all that exists because you are the energy that makes up all things, and the energy that makes up all things is making you as well, and you are continuous with the flow of the cosmic energy of all things. That you can intellectually understand that, and then you can existentially understand that, and you can experience that, and you can live that, and know that deep down in the depths of your being, because that's what your being is in its depths, is existence itself. And if everyone realized that, not just intellectually understood it, but realized it, then, the world would be a totally different place. But, and there's nothing wrong with the world per se. I mean, when you really get down to it, there's nothing wrong with the world because wrong doesn't exist. There is nothing right or wrong ultimately. There is existence doing what existence does. There is nature doing what nature does. And when you look out at nature and you see, trees falling, there's nothing wrong with a tree that falls. There's nothing wrong with two colonies of ants going to war, right? That's nature doing what nature does. But when we see humans doing those things, we think that there's something wrong with it. But and on the human level, we see right and wrong. Obviously, we are conditioned to view the world in terms of right and wrong. We're conditioned to view the world in so many different ways. But ultimately, there is no right and wrong because there is only existence doing what existence does. It's all the happening of existence. It's all the flowing of the universe. The energy of the universe is what it all is. And so, for everyone to realize non-dual, the non-dual reality would be a totally different world. But in that question, we're assuming that there's something wrong with the world as it is right now. Humanly speaking, there is something wrong with the world because we've been conditioned to see it that way. And that's okay. Like, we can see the world in those conditions, through those conditioned lenses. But if we take a step back and view the world from the perspective of the whole, then right and wrong just doesn't exist. And so whether there is a universal realization of non-duality or not, it's all the happening of the universe. It would be different, right? Exactly. Vijalpi, yes. It would be different. Not necessarily wrong, right? Exactly. It would just be different. That would be a different existence. That would be a different world. I couldn't agree more. This guy talks in circles and says nothing. Well, that's because you're not listening. You don't understand. You can't understand. You can't understand what I'm saying, and that's okay. And you can move on. But it's okay that you don't understand because you're not going to understand until that illusion of separation breaks down and dissolves. Until you have the realization that you are not separate from existence and separate from the universe and separate from nature. That you are the universe. You are existence. You are nature. Until you have that realization, nothing that I say will make sense to you. Because it's a total change of perception. It's a total change of, it turns everything that you think you know upside down on its head. And until you have that realization that you aren't separate from anything, there is nothing separate. There is no separate God out there, and that in and of itself is a world-changing event for you. And when you realize that, and you realize that separation is an illusion, that illusion of separation crumbles down and it no longer exists, and you experience yourself to be one with everything that exists, because everything that exists is one. And until you experience that, you can't understand what I'm saying. And it's okay. It isn't a life or death matter for you. It's okay. You can continue to believe the things that you believe, but believing is bondage. You're believing the beliefs of ancient human beings, more than likely. You're believing the philosophies of other human beings, and you've never come to your own realization. You've never walked your own path. You've never thought through your own existence and come to your own realization. And, I understand. I get it. I've been there. Very much created and destroyed by my own hands. We as humans are very capable of either. We are. This thought pattern will lead you to anxiety, depression, and deception. What thought pattern? Because it isn't a thought pattern that I'm talking about. It's an experience. It's spontaneous living. It's trusting yourself as existence itself. So there is no anxiety at all. Once you realize this, anxiety disappears. That's the most egoic thing you can say. Let's debate. The words "let's debate," that implies that you are lost in the bondage of the illusion of separation. This is a breath of fresh air compared to the other lives I've come across. Thank you, Courtney. Do you see validity in astrology? I don't know anything about astrology. I have a lot of people talk to me about astrology. But myself, speaking in my own experience, I don't have much of a need for astrology, whether it's true or not. A lot of astrology has to do with understanding your personality. And personality is persona. It's the mask that you wear. And I don't have a whole lot of need to understand the mask that I wear, because I know who I am behind the mask. I know that behind the mask, when the mask comes off, that I am existence. And the persona is a conditioned ego. That's what personality is, right? And so much of astrology has to do with personality. Personality is a construct. It's conditioned by your environment. It's been created by everything that you've been influenced by. That's what personality is. It's a mask. It's a mask that you portray yourself as to the world. And existence has no personality. And so when you take the mask off, the persona, and you recognize and realize yourself as existence itself, then personality is exposed for what it is. It's ego. And ego is an illusion. Personality is an illusion. Personality implies a separate entity, and there is no separation. Separation is an illusion. You aren't a separate entity. You aren't separate from anything else. You aren't separate from existence. You aren't separate from the universe, from nature, from each other. You are existence itself. And when the ego begins to be exposed for what it is, that it doesn't really exist as a separate entity, and that's what ego is, right? The ego is the illusion that you are a separate entity. And when that is exposed for what it is, and you realize that you aren't separate, that you are existence itself, then a lot of that stuff like astrology and psychoanalysis and things like that kind of crumble down, and you don't really need a whole lot. There's not really a need for it. Now, people need it. A lot of egos out there need it. People need it who believe that they're somebody, that believe that there's somebody separate from everything around them. Those things can come in handy. Then in that in that sphere, astrology takes on a meaning, and therapy and psychoanalysis and all those kinds of things take on meaning. But when the ego breaks down and you realize who you really are, then those things no longer really have a meaningful place. Here's a kind of felt center located in the head. Do you still have a felt center? What? I'm trying to read the rest of that. That heart's in the way. What is your center? So I'm reading a comment on YouTube. A question says, here is a kind of felt center located in the head. Do you still have a felt center? What is your center? So a lot of that has dissolved, to be honest with you. And there is no real, there is a sense of a felt center, but for the most part, I sincerely am living spontaneously, and I am not even living as the observer, but just living. So there is just this spontaneous living going on, and that is just me being as honest as I can be in words. And it's hard to put into words, but I am just living a spontaneous being, a spontaneous existence, because I have come to a place where I trust myself as existence. I know who I really am, and I trust my brain to work, and I trust my mouth to speak, and I trust my lungs to breathe, and I trust the sun to provide warmth. In the same way, I'm trusting all of existence to do what existence does. My brain knows what to do, so there's no one controlling my brain. What would that even mean? There's someone how do you control your thoughts when you are your thoughts? Right? So, but when you can get beyond your thoughts and kind of observe your thoughts, then you realize, wait, this whole ego is just a product of environment. It's a product of thought. That whole center even is a product of thought and ego. And that can dissolve away. And what's left is life, just pure life, pure living. And that's what existence is. It's pure life. Existence is just pure being, pure living. Platform, you're a very thick ego. All I see is forehead on your T. Looks like Lenin's forehead. Vlad Lenin. You debate people. I used to debate people until I realized how pointless it was, because debates are ego versus ego. We are preparing for war. No, we are. Advitans. Where are you at? Where are you located? We all come from one source. We are the source. We aren't separate from it. We are the source. There, now I can see it all. How to go beyond thoughts. From contracted me to boundlessness. Well, when you realize that the thoughts themselves are a happening of existence, then you aren't so concentrated on the thoughts. Because what happens is we have thoughts and we concentrate on those thoughts. And that's just our ego focused in on the thoughts, right? So we concentrate and we obsess over thoughts, and we think about thoughts about thoughts about thoughts. And so it's this vicious circle of thinking of thoughts and thinking of thoughts on thoughts on thoughts. And when you realize that thoughts aren't controlled, They are the happening of existence. They are the energy of the cosmos, just like anything else. That thoughts occur and happen just like your heart beats. That thoughts occur and happen just like the wind blows and the leaves move in the wind. That's just what thoughts are. They're just a happening, just like anything else. Then you can lose that concentration on the thoughts themselves. And once you release that concentration on the thoughts themselves and you allow them to be what they are, then you tend to move beyond them, and you're not so focused on them. You become relaxed, and you what I call this periphery consciousness. You relax into the periphery of consciousness, this peripheral consciousness. And so you're not, it's like focusing your sight on this mug, right? I can only see this mug. I can only see what's on this mug. But when I relax and I don't focus so much on this mug, I can actually start to see everything around me. I can see words moving over here on my phone. I can see some stuff going on my computer. And that's peripheral consciousness. But peripheral consciousness, we screen out so much of what's going on around us as far as consciousness goes. And when we can relax that and relax that concentration on thoughts and realize thoughts are just a happening. I don't have to obsess over my thoughts. I don't have to obsess over what am I thinking in this moment. What am I going to say? What did I say? You can go beyond the thoughts at that point, and then you find that thoughts are just happening, and you don't have any energy that is spent on the thoughts, because you're trusting your brain to do what the brain is designed to do. I mean, that's what the brain does. It is formed and evolved and exists to do what it does, which is think in response to situation and stimuli. And when that stimuli occur, then your brain reacts in appropriate ways. But when we get in the way of the reaction of the brain is when we start to obsess over thoughts and overthink and become paralyzed, and then we're not spontaneous and we're not natural. And so when you can realize that thoughts are the happening of existence just like anything else is, then you can just allow those thoughts to take place, and you don't have to concentrate on them. Trust the brain to do what it does, which is think in response to stimuli. Trust the brain to do what it does, just like you trust your heart to beat and your lungs to breathe and the sun to provide warmth. Trust your heart, trust your brain in the way that you trust your heart, and you can relax that concentration. And then it's like you're not even thinking. You can use thoughts, you can use your brain, but it's like you're not even doing the thinking, because in reality, there's no thinker anyway. There are just thoughts happening. It's the brain happening, which is natural and spontaneous. Is there anything you've still retained from Christianity and the Bible or Jesus? Or do you think it's all false? It's also been a while. Glad I'm tuning back in. What's up, Donovan? Anything I've retained from Christianity and the Bible, Jesus, and do you think it's all false? I, as a human being, am also as an ego, right? So the ego is a product of everything that it has experienced. So the ego is the product of its Christian upbringing. It's the product of its education. It's the product of its political surroundings and environment and cultural environment. And so the ego will never shake its influences and conditioning. But the deep down beyond the ego, me as existence, there's nothing needed in the Bible. There's nothing that I need from the Bible. There's nothing I need from the Quran. There's nothing I need from a God. There's nothing I need from Jesus. And in that sense, it is all false. You can learn things from it. There are truths in the Bible. There are truths in the Quran. There are truths in religions, but they are not the truth. And so as existence, I have no need for anything that is in the Bible. I don't need anything that has to do with Jesus. I don't have any need from the Quran. I don't have any of that. I don't have any need for any of that. I just have one question. Dark NATO, my friend, what's up? Good to see you. Do you believe in purgatory? I don't believe in anything. Beliefs are unnecessary, utterly unnecessary. You don't have to believe anything if you're living in this moment. If you are in this moment fully, totally in this moment as existence itself, then belief is utterly unnecessary. What's up, Dark NATO? Every knee will bow. Every knee shall bow. Every tongue will confess. That's a 2,000-year-old lie. Because that was expected to happen 2,000 years ago, and it didn't. And so that's a 2,000-year-old lie. Well, I see. Does anybody detect any hatred, Neela? I don't know why you say hatred. I haven't said anything hateful. That is yet to come, but it's not. It's a 2,000-year-old lie. That's congruent with neuroscience, I guess. Would you like to share your moment of liberation, just for interest? So, I've been on a path. You could call it, it's a pathless path is what it is. You have to go on your own journey. You have to go on your own path and take the steps of your own path. But the moment of liberation, I think, was not just a moment, but a process of awakening. And really what it is ultimately the realization that separation is an illusion. When you drop the ego as a separate entity and you realize that the ego is just an illusion. And what I mean by ego is the belief that you are separate from existence, the belief that you are separate from nature, the belief that you are separate from anyone else around you, the belief that you're separate from existence itself, that, some people believe that you're a soul that was put into this creation. Some people believe that they're a separate entity created by a god. Some people believe that they are a separate spirit and that they will exist forever as this individual spirit. And when you drop the illusion of separation and realize there's not this little me in any way, shape, or form, that is an illusion, that is in itself liberation. When you realize that, not just intellectually know it, but when you realize it and you experience it, and the realization is that you are all that exists. You're the flow of the energy of all things. You're the flow. You're one and the same process with everything that exists. You are that process. You are that energy, that cosmic energy. That's what you are. And that this belief that you're a separate thing and that everything else is separate from you and that everybody else is separate from you, that's just a belief, and it isn't reality. That in and of itself is liberation, because when you experience that, then you drop this sense of this me and you begin to live naturally, spontaneously, in complete freedom, in utter freedom. And by freedom, I don't mean like free to do anything that you please, because there isn't anything that you please. You're just living naturally, spontaneously. And that's liberation. So you think these truths are psychological, not religious or theological. They're experiential. These truths are experiential. And they're experiential for me, but you'll have to go on your own path. You'll have to go on your own journey and discover these things for yourself. And when you can go inward instead of outward, instead of looking out there at some God or some deity or some truth out there, and you turn it around, go inward, and you go, who am I? You ask the question, who am I? Who am I really? Am I really this little ego that is so separate and mighty or small or big or whatever it is? And you realize that's not really who you are, because that is just an illusion. It doesn't exist. And you experience yourself, the real self, you experience what you really are, which is existence, which is the whole thing. Then it is experiential. And it's reality. And some people would call it religious or spiritual, but it just is reality. It is what it is. Satan doesn't exist, Matthias. That's a belief. Satan is in your head. And so any power that Satan has is the power you give to Satan, because you're believing that Satan exists. The moment you cease to believe in Satan, Satan no longer exists. He's gone. He vanishes like a vapor, because that's what he is. He's a vapor of belief. But if Satan did exist, he'd be the better option. What's up, Austin, my friend? Skyhawk, Rick. Yeah, once you see, you see. Greatest trick Satan ever pulled off was making people believe he doesn't exist. Well, the greatest trick that religion has pulled off is making people believe that Satan does exist and that there's a hell. That's the greatest trick that religion has pulled off. And that you are separate from anything around you, and that there's a separate God out there, this separate entity or being that created you and is watching you and judging you and will condemn you to eternal hell, because all of that is just an ancient lie. It's an ancient belief. And you're believing the ancient beliefs of ancient human beings in their own historical context that you are far removed from. It's easier to fool a man than convince him that he has been fooled. Oh man, that's so right on. So right on. I'm trying to keep up with all the comment. Where else do you stream? TikTok and YouTube. TikTok may not be around for very much longer, so YouTube may be the future platform. But I haven't been on either in a long time, a couple of months. Who is your favorite mind? Mine is Alan Watts. I love Alan Watts. I've grown to love Osho as well. Osho is really incredible. And people are very hit or miss on Osho, but when you really can hear what he has to say, he has a great understanding. He really does, and he resonates with what I've experienced, and I resonate with him with what I've experienced. I know you see me. I do see you. Historical context of the destruction of Jerusalem, Israel. Yes, that's a big part of seeing that the origins of Christianity is understanding the historical context of the destruction of Jerusalem and Israel. That's a big part of understanding the origin of Christianity and why it even exists. Because there isn't there isn't any, I shouldn't say there isn't any truth to Christianity, but Christianity is not the truth. Genuine question. If you experienced Jesus, would you convert? It's a hypothetical question. If I experienced Zeus, if I experienced Allah, if I experienced Jesus, if I experienced, thank you, Laura, the flying spaghetti monster, would I convert? So I don't have any use for, thank you, Laura. I don't have any use for hypothetical questions. I think they're quite useless. I exist here and now in this moment, this present moment. Hypothetical has nothing to do with this moment. Thank you, Razi. Neela, that is your belief. You believe I've been deceived, and that's okay. You can believe that. Yeah, that's true, Cassie. Mormon Christian missionaries came to many countries and ruined their culture and identities. And not just Mormon Christian missionaries, but all kinds of missionaries. All kinds of Christian missionaries and Islamic missionaries and all kinds of missionaries ruined a lot of cultures and people groups. Did you practice any sadhana before liberation? Can you recommend any? And also, people say Advaita leads to nihilism. How do we respond? Two good questions. I didn't have a regular practice. And I still don't have a regular practice because, and being as sincere as possible, life to me is a meditative state for the most part. I live life knowing who I really am deep down. And as a human being, I experience the range of emotions, but I watch them, I witness them, I understand them, and I know who I am. And I see the emotions, the range of emotions, and I see the thoughts passing through the sky of existence that I really am. And they come and they go and they rise and they fall like waves of the ocean. And so a regular practice is life, I would say. And even before, I don't think I had a regular practice, a set practice. I read a lot, I read a lot, walk a lot. I walk on the beach. That's as close to meditation, I think, as I got, is a form of walking meditation. Just being on the beach, just walking. And it doesn't have to be on the beach, but just being, just walking, breathing, living. But when you realize the illusion of separation and it breaks down, then really all of life becomes, you could call it a meditative practice, but it's not really a practice. It's a state of being. It's a state of living. It's a state of existence as existence. People say Advaita leads to nihilism. How do we respond? Well, it is nihilism to the ego. So we could respond in saying it's true to the ego. Advaita leads to the death of the ego, and that's nihilism. But existence itself never dies. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. And so the energy that you are of existence, the cosmic energy of all things, never dies. It never ends. It's never created. It's never destroyed. It simply is. And so nihilism has nothing to do with existence. Nihilism has everything to do with the ego. So when ego dies, nihilism, that's nihilism. It's ego death. And ego is used, like you use ego. Ego is here. It is the product of conditioning. It's the product of your environment. It's the product of beliefs that have been shoved on you for all of your life. But beyond the ego, beyond that mask, beyond the persona as existence itself, there's no such thing as end, death, nihilism. What's Advaita? Another word for non-duality, which means not to, or to put it into words inadequately, is everything is one. Everything is this one existence, this one whole, this one, all of existence is this one process, interconnected, related, inseparable. You can't pull it apart. You can't separate it out into parts. It is all that exists, and you're one with that. Everyone is bound to their desires. Every ego is bound to their desires. Every ego is bound to its desires. One whole energy, our subconscious. Yeah, it is. It is and it's subconscious for most. And it becomes conscious. Hey, Tasha, it becomes conscious. It becomes consciousness for ones who realize who they really are. When that illusion of separation breaks down and dissolves, it just becomes existence. I think that's Advaita Vedanta, right? Don't they believe in God? It's a little different. I think they believe in cycles. Translates to non-secondness. I can sense the freedom in your words. Thank you, Mukunda. No, and I'm not an Advaita Vedantan. And I think when you get to the heart of Advaita Vedanta, God is not a separate entity for those who understand Advaita Vedanta. I'm not an Advaitan or Vedantan or anything like that. I'm nothing. Label myself anything. I'm not affiliated with any kind of religion at all whatsoever. I don't believe in any kind of separate entity or God or anything like that, or higher power, because that implies separation. And I don't think Advaita Vedantans believe in God really either. They don't believe in separate gods. I mean, I know they don't. What about supernatural? Well, there's only natural. There's only the natural. What would supernatural even be? What would that mean? Everything is nature. Everything is inseparable from everything else around it. What about magic? What about black magic? Well, all of that really has no place for the present. Magic, black magic, all of those kind of astrology, any of those things has to do with the imaginative future. And it implies that we aren't fully present in this moment, and that we're thinking and we're consumed with thoughts and we're obsessed with thoughts. I need to, whatever magic and black magic is, I need to speak a spell so that something else happens, or it implies discontentment. And discontentment only arises when you're not fully, spontaneously existing in the present. Yeah, Sarah. When you're really truly existing in the present, and the present is all that exists, and it isn't just that I know that the present is all that exists, but I am the present which exists, and that I am living naturally, spontaneously in the present, which is all that exists, then you really have no need for much at all. Needs drop. Need has to do with ego. Thank you. Yeah, in a way, Deb, you're correct. Thank you for explaining that. Their God is oneness, kind of. Right. And, what did you read? Oh, okay, I just saw that, Makuna. Well, I've read a lot, and over a decade ago, came across Alan Watts, who had a profound impact on me, and he shoved me in the right direction. I love Alan Watts. To this day, I love Alan Watts. And he shoved me in the right direction. So he opened the door to me to all kinds of things like Eastern philosophies and spiritualities and Eastern paths and wisdoms. And he helped interpret those things to me. I read a lot of things. D.T. Suzuki, Osho, a lot more recently than in the past. Thich Nhat Hanh, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramana Maharshi, even Sam Harris. Nothing holy, Bodhidharma. Right. Yes, exactly. 100%. Nihilism to the ego. Only weak people need a purpose. Right. Only egos need a purpose. Because why are people who need a purpose weak? I wouldn't put it that way. I would put it that only egos need a purpose. Purpose has to do with separation. Purpose has to do with ego only. Ego only is in need of purpose. What has existence itself to do with purpose? There is only existence. Everything is this existence. And if everything is this interconnected flow of cosmic energy, inseparable, then how can there be a purpose if there's nothing separate from what is? Purpose implies separation. Purpose implies something other. I have to become something. I have to be something. But it only has to do with ego. And if you can drop ego, you find that you don't need purpose. When ego drops, purpose is dropped. You realize the impermanence of the ego and impermanence of all those things associated with the ego and impermanence even of purpose. There's no need. Purpose is purpose, so that doesn't make sense. Some people who need purpose are trying to find their own, and that would be the ego trying to find their purpose. Ego needs purpose. But purpose has only to do with ego. It really does. Purpose has nothing to do with existence. There is only existence, nothing separate from it. So purpose implies separate egos. Purpose implies separation. Yeah, Kushkat, if you need that word purpose, if you need some sort of purpose, it is to exist. It is to live life. This is purpose, just being in this moment. And if you aren't living in this moment, fully present in this moment, then purpose is meaningless. Purpose then always has to do with the future. And future never comes, because if your purpose always has to do with the future, then anything that you get in the future you're still going to have purpose in the future, and you're never going to enjoy the present moment. There's no purpose as long as there's ego. One will make a purpose, right, Arcus? If you can't see God in all, then you can't see God at all. I like that, Daniel. That's good. What's the issue with the ego? There's no issue with the ego. It's just that ego is the cause. The illusion of separation is the cause of pain and suffering and anxiety, stress, sadness. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with it. It is a happening. It is what is. Yeah, purpose means hope for the ego to survive. That is good. Yes, it does. What's the issue with the ego? Yeah. So that is, there's no issue. I wouldn't put it that way. There's nothing wrong with the ego. There's no issue with the ego. You can continue to be asleep in the ego and believe you're a separate entity apart from everything that exists, that you're this little person in this vast universe and creation, and that you have to figure this life out on your own. And for what? You die. For what? You die. But when you realize what the ego really is, it's an illusion, and that you are consistent and you are this flow of cosmic energy. It's flowing through you, creating you, just like it's flowing through everything, this mug even. And it all is the same energy. It's the same universe. It's the same existence. And when you realize that, then your anxiety means nothing. Your worries are meaningless, and purpose loses all meaning. The ego is always present. We don't eradicate the ego. We just become aware of it and choose. Yeah, we become aware of what it is. We become aware. We wake up to the reality that the ego is conditioned. It's a product. It's impermanent. And what really exists behind the ego is existence itself, which is who you really are. So if there's no purpose, is the point of... So if there is no purpose, is the point of living experience? Well, point and purpose are the same thing. Just be. Just live. Just live and leave the question of purpose behind. Leave the beliefs behind. Drop the question of purpose. Drop the philosophies, drop the religions, drop the beliefs, and just exist. Just be. And live spontaneously. And don't try to live spontaneously. Just relax. Just relax. Hey, S. Jingles, thank you. Just relax. Relax into the periphery. Be a wave busting, right? Because a wave is existence. A wave isn't separate from the ocean. You are the ocean. Just relax as a wave and dissolve into the ocean of being, because that's who you really are. And give up the beliefs that you are a separate entity apart from the ocean. We're all soup. Live spontaneously, but don't try. When we hurt each other, we're hurting ourselves. Yes, that's what we're here to learn. Ego hurts. Surrender to the river. Because when you drop the belief that you are just this leaf floating in the river, you suddenly realize that you're the river itself. And so when you surrender to the river, the Tao, the flow of life, the flow of energy, you surrender to what is, then even the surrender drops and you realize that you are what is. But why? You don't have to ask why. Drop the why. There is no why. Why is the ego asking a question? Bustin', I don't know. It depends on my if I'm awake or not on Friday night. I want to, man. I've wanted to. Friday night comes and I realize that I'm like exhausted, and so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go live, and then the time gets closer and the bed is calling and I just go to sleep. I want to, man. Can you have a different wife every day? That's an egoic question that is absolutely meaningless. It has no meaning. Yeah, Jess. Jesus in like religion. You know, you can read and find that as well in there. Yes. Why? To learn the lessons about humanity from the actions driven by ego. Yeah, how do you succumb to the river and become one? Oh, if the ego is so prominent, how do you drop the ego? Like, how do you succumb to the river and become one? Well, you don't. And that's where words, yeah, ego isn't a bad thing. I agree, Kyra. I didn't say it was. I never have. And that's the problem with words. You don't drop the ego. It's more that the ego dissolves in the awareness of your true nature. Because when you realize who you really are as existence itself and the illusion of separation breaks down, the ego drops on its own. And it doesn't mean that you don't still wear a mask and the ego still is not operating. But it isn't what it was. It's more of a natural, spontaneous existence. And so your personality is what it is. It's the ego. But your awareness of everything happening is of the happening of existence. It's the flow of cosmic energy and you're aware of that. And so you recognize the ego for what it is. So you don't actively drop the ego. It's what the Taoists call Wu Wei, effortless action. You could say it's effortless dropping. It's you're not making effort to drop the ego. You'll never do that because the ego is dropping ego at that point, and it's just a vicious cycle. The ego wants to drop the ego, and it's just an egoic exercise. But the awareness of reality, when you become aware of the truth of reality and that separation is an illusion and that you are existence itself, then ego drops on its own. You recognize what it is and you actually observe it and witness it, and then the observer and the witnesser, the witness itself becomes part of the dissolving, and then you're just living, and you are a spontaneous existence, which is what existence is. Spontaneous flow of cosmic energy. It's a happening. It's all a happening. You find yourself within all. Right. Sometimes ego serves a purpose. It does. before we spoke with words, did we have ego or did we just be? That's a good question. That's a good question. Pseudo-intellectual nonsense. It's beyond your intellect. You can't understand what I'm saying, and I understand. I get it. But perhaps you will one day. You know, Sarah, that's a good question, because you can look at nature and ask, you know, do the squirrels have egos? Do ants have egos? But it's really a question. I mean, again, that's an egoic question, because we're asking, do they believe that they are separate from existence? And I don't think they believe that. But what do I know about that? What I do know is that we as human beings believe that we are separate from existence, and that's the definition of ego. And so before words, before we spoke, before we had spoken language, did the ego exist? Well, if there was the sense, if there was the sensation, the perception, the belief that we were separate individuals, separate from existence, if there was a belief in that, not just a life, not just living, a spontaneous living, but I mean the conscious belief that I am separate from all things around me, then that would in a sense be the definition of ego. Would have never occurred to them. Right. Exactly. Yeah, they were connected for survival. Had to be right. So they were an organism. They were an organic entity as a whole. They weren't individual. They were an organism. Dr. Freeman, right? What's a good book to read? Dominic Garcia. God, there's so many I could point you to. You could read my blog, RickQuestionsThings.com. Especially the last two posts. I talked about unconditional love. I wrote about unconditional love. And I wrote kind of a stream of consciousness type post before that. It's a hard question because I don't know where you are, but not knowing where you are in awareness or consciousness. I have a few books here that I normally show people and some that I don't normally show people. But, you know, Alan Watts had a profound impact on me for a long time. Still does. I mean, I love Alan Watts. And I listen to him, read him more now for entertainment. And really I listen and read everything more now for entertainment than I do to learn. Because although my name is Rick Questions Things, I really don't have any questions, to be honest with you. I think I earned my free. Right, Sarah. Love the spooky cup. But if I were going to point you, towards some books, I can show you a few. So The Way of Zen by Alan Watts. Love this book. I love it. The Way of Zen by Alan Watts. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote this book, The Other Shore. It's on the Heart Sutra. The Other Shore. It's a really good one. Really good one. And also in the Heart Sutra, Osho wrote a book called The Heart Sutra. I really dig that book as well. They were those three books. I think Alan Watts, the Way of Zen, points you in the direction that lifts some of the veil of Zen. I'll have to drag this. Oops, I got to drag this thing to TikTok is saying I'm not live. Okay, there we go. I guess I'm still live. Read my question. Oh, I will. Sorry. I know I'm looking away a lot. That's why TikTok had me like move a puzzle piece to make sure I'm still live. He lifts the veil, Alan Watts lifts the veil and interprets the East in a very profound way, I think, to Western thinkers. And then Thich Nhat Hanh and Osho on the Heart Sutra get to the heart of reality. And the words that they speak are they're really silence made into speech is what it is. They are silence put into words as best as they could be. Those two books are great. The spooky cup. Have you had any time to surf? I surfed a few days ago. And then before that, a couple days before that, I've surfed more in the last few weeks than I have in a long time. Thankfully, I'm just waiting on another good day of surf to happen. We've got a lot of winds coming up this weekend, so hopefully it'll pick up some surf and then maybe clean up and I can catch some good rides. Anyone who follows God is not worthy of any trust. There's a lot of truth in that statement. A lot of truth in that statement. Get saved, not too late. There's nothing for me to be saved from. Yeah, so the cabana business has been, we had 8 cabanas last week. We laughed at the same time. We had 8 cabanas last week. Where did we come from though? Okay, Jess. And so I've been really busy, but yeah, so I set up cabanas in the morning, and then on weekdays I go to work, and then after work I can surf a little while and then go pick up the cabanas. And then on the weekends I set up the cabanas in the morning, and then I have all day to kind of do whatever I need to do, and I can fit surfing in there, and then go pick up the cabanas in the evening. Plenty of saving for one day. Perfectly in the now. Yes. Where did we come from though? So that question implies a separate entity to come from somewhere, and we didn't come from anywhere. The ego is a product of conditioning, environment. So that's, where did the ego come from? That is a question you can ask. Where did the ego come from? Well, it came from beliefs, conditioning, environment, education, politics, culture. That's where the ego comes from. But that's really all that we can say about where did we come from, because the we in that question is the egoic we. But existence didn't come from anywhere. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, and that's what you really are, is the energy of all things, the energy of the universe. You are existence itself. And so that question is completely meaningless when it comes to existence, your true nature behind the ego, your true nature behind the mask, the illusion of separation. So that's where we came from, the egoic we. But your true nature never came from anywhere, and it doesn't go anywhere. It is all that exists. You are existence itself. Do you believe or have hope in any kind of afterlife? So don't believe anything. And I am in this moment where death has nothing to do with me as existence. Again, afterlife has everything to do with ego. It's the belief in a separate entity. I'm a separate individual soul, spirit, existence, and so after death, I continue on as this separate ego, and it's just a belief. That's all it is. It's just a belief. But again, energy is neither created nor destroyed. And what you are is the energy of the universe. You are existence itself. And so what is afterlife to existence? Existence doesn't die. Energy doesn't die. So what is the afterlife to existence? It's a meaningless question to your true nature. I haven't seen you in a while. Love your deep conversations. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. You haven't been on in a while. It's been a few weeks. At least a couple of months, actually. Is energy sacred? Well, there is nothing sacred or not sacred, because everything is energy. So for energy to be sacred, what does sacred mean? For energy to be sacred and something else to be not sacred, well, there is nothing else. There is only energy. There is only existence. And so sacred implies something set apart, something holy, something other than, something separate. And there is nothing separate from energy. There's nothing separate from existence. So there's no sacred separation. There's no higher energy and lower energy. There is energy, and everything is that energy, and everything is a happening of that energy. Everything is a happening of existence. Everything is the same inseparable flow. Sure. As if the energy expands at the speed of light. It is not, but we're not sure. Well, we never will be, because we're, in the end, only guessing when it comes to those kinds of questions. Okay, so I better get some sleep. I'm seeing some questions that I've been talking a lot on, and so for the sake of repeating myself, you can go to YouTube later on. This live is streaming on YouTube, and it'll be on my YouTube channel. If you look up RickQuestionsThings, all one word, you can find this stream, and I've answered a lot of questions, and I've talked about a lot of things tonight. It'll be on the YouTube stream. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you very much. I love you. I've missed you. I haven't been on in a couple of months, and I finally was able to just go live, and I decided to do it spontaneously. Ripley. Thank you, Rachel. Weird Alf. Love the name. I'm glad to see everybody. Yeah, Gollum. Love to you as well. I love all you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for the comments on YouTube and on TikTok. It's been really great comments. Thank you for the gifts and the follows and the likes. I really appreciate you. Thanks for listening and just being with me. So, good timing. My connection to YouTube just ceased. I feel so free now that I stopped with all the religious nonsense. Right. It's bondage. The reptilians. All right. Well, I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. I don't know when I'm going to go live again. Used to. My normal live was Friday night, but I haven't gone live in a couple of months. But here and there, I'm going to go live when I can, especially during the week. It's probably going to be more so during the week. But go to RickQuestionsThings.com. Every once in a while, I'll write there, kind of check in, write some things that are, I mean, it's what I said earlier. It's an attempt to put silence into words. That's what it is. So I'm dead serious. So go to RickQuestionsThings.com. Check it out. Check if you want to hear the rest of this stream and you missed it, go to Rick Questions Things on YouTube. This stream will be on there soon. Makunda, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate you being on the stream on YouTube and asking questions and commenting. This is really good. All right, I love you guys. I appreciate you very much. Have a good night and keep in touch.